Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the GothamChess Slow Run. This is episode number 13, but just in case you need a reminder, in this series, I started on an authorized account on chess.com, going up the rating ladder, playing rapid chess, and explaining the thought process every step of the way. Now, today is also December 5th, 2025. It's my birthday. I turned 30. 30 years ago, about 6 hours ago, I was born. 3 decades of my life are now complete. In particular, the last 5 years have been quite crazy, and I reflect fondly on them. I have learned a lot. I have worked very hard. I've gotten lucky at times. I've gotten unlucky at times. But when people talk about the biggest chess channel in the world and things of that nature, best-selling book, all of those things, that has to do with the meaningful connection that the game of chess has made with all of you. Each and every one of you who tunes in to watch videos, who might watch some live streams, who might have gotten a book, signed up for Chessly, and so on and so forth. So thank you, really. And this 4th decade will be crazy. Who knows what will happen in 10 years, where the world will be, if people will even be watching YouTube at all. But in the meantime, let's play chess, let's learn chess, and let's just have a blast. How about that? Also, my birthday present to all of you is 1 extra day. Today is now the second to last day that you can lock in the best first-year price on Chessly that we've offered this year outside of the launch. $49.99, 70 courses. If you can find a better deal anywhere, I would be extremely impressed. So without further ado, let's get into this episode. Let's break past 800. Let's learn a couple of things. The best present you can give me: watch some chess, learn some chess, continue to make chess part of your day-to-day life. Here we go. All right, first game, we are booting up. We are playing still in the 700 club, and I'm going to start with a Scandinavian defense. And I'm also going to slightly crop this. This is where the pieces are supposed to be captured. Doing a live edit here. A lot of you requested piece capture, so we will have them indeed. Okay, a lot of people meet the Scandinavian defense with the pawn push. This has happened several times already. The best way to deal with this is to play the move pawn to c5. The reason is you would like to develop your knight to c6, and I've said this already, but I will continue to say this. When the knight is in front of the c-pawn, it exerts a lot less pressure on the center than if the c-pawn went forward and then the knight went behind it. Together, like this, they put good pressure on the center with both knight and pawn. Now, my opponent is actually playing fantastic. This pawn structure is something that happens in an exchange French variation, advance French variation. Except in that variation, you have committed the e-pawn already on the very first move. The benefit of this position is I haven't done that, so I can play a move like bishop to f5. These are not the best moves, per se, but my next move will be pawn to e6, so that I didn't block in my bishop. And if my opponent takes the pawn on c5, I can always play pawn to e6 and slowly win it back. A lot of people also pin the bishop like pin with the bishop like this. You have multiple options here. You can defend with the rook. You can also just attack the bishop. You can also just ignore it because there's nothing really substantial there. Let's see what happens. I kind of think my opponent will take. A lot of people at this level just sort of capture absent-mindedly. They, like, if it's a fair trade, they just sort of do it. But as you improve and climb past 800 and, into 900 territory, you don't have to, and we do in fact see that move being played. Also, you'll notice that both of us have kept our pawns like this in the center of the board. That's also totally reasonable. So I'm going to play knight to e7 here because I would like to finish my development. And if I had blocked in with the bishop, I wouldn't have been able to put my knight there. So I'll put my knight here. This also defends this. Let's see if my opponent is still keen on taking. They do take, but you see the difference now is that I take with my knight instead of my pawn. And so that trade has now transformed the structure, and this trade has also transformed the structure. This is really now 1200 stuff, but I like to include information in these slow runs that are good for players that are not even at the level that we are playing. We are about to break through 800, and even if you're 1500, there is still stuff that you can learn. This trade significantly decreased my opponent's strength on the light squares. And this trade has destabilized my opponent's center and helped me develop a little bit. Now, the move bishop g5, clean attack on my queen. When I think about all the possible moves, they're frankly all pretty decent. I can also bring my bishop back and offer a trade. And a little bit more crazy of a move is actually pawn to f6, which I don't think is that terrible in many ways. But it's a little bit too advanced, I would say, for this particular situation. So I'm going to slide my queen to c7. Now my knight and my queen together take a look at that pawn. Let's see if my opponent notices that. And on my next move, I'm going to castle on the short side. But we will look as well at the move pawn to f6. Risky move. Why? Opens up the king. Our king is in the center. But the benefit of the move pawn to f6 is we don't waste any time acknowledging our opponent's threats and instead seize the initiative. Furthermore, when that trade happens on that square, we open up the G file with potential attacking ideas. But these are all things that you will develop deeper in your chess career. Okay, so I'm considering taking this pawn. Now, the way you look to see if you can carry out a sequence, obviously we look at knight takes, queen takes, knight takes, queen takes. We're not losing the queen. Is there something with the queen on that square our opponent could do to us? They could attack our queen, but then we just move. And last but not least, you always have to look for checks. And there is one. Queen a4. But that's not scary. We can, right? So it looks like we have we can play this move. It looks like, we looked at takes, and there's nothing. We looked at a check, there's nothing. Looks like a pretty good move to me. Now, okay, this move comes as a surprise to us. Look at that. We missed this move, right? We've allowed ourselves to be pinned. Now, the good news for us is we can still defend our knight. Like we can play, for example, bishop to d6. We also can actually take this with a check and then move our queen. So this is a nice move because if the opponent takes back with the knight, we actually just take the bishop. We were able to move the knight because a king is obviously worth not more per se, but let's say per se. And now we should either move our queen or block with the bishop. Now, what we should not do, is a move that never would be considered by me, is the move pawn to e5. You generally want to avoid tactical situations when you're in the center, when your king is in the center. This is a very solid structure of pawns. My pawn takes away moves from the knight. All my pawns are protected. This move stops guarding that pawn. Also, after rook here, my king in the middle is going to be a big problem. Personally, I think either trading the bishop or moving the queen to a safe square is the way to go. So let's slide the queen forward one square, and next move we are going to castle. Okay. Now, we can take, we can push, we can defend, we can also ignore. I'm going to ignore. And now the question is, do we trade the queens or not? Let's see what happens if we trade the queens. We are up a pawn, right? So we are up a pawn in this position. Trading the queens can't be that bad, right? So let's see. Let's see what happens. Okay, my opponent rejects a queen trade. I can trade the queen, but I'm actually seeing that pawn is under attack. So I don't really see any reason I shouldn't take this pawn, but I reopen, I open this diagonal and my opponent might do the exact same thing to me, by the way. All right. Now, one thing people have a really big blind spot over in chess, is long moves diagonally or horizontally. My opponent might just totally not see this. The only reason they would see this move is because I just made a long queen move. And now you start thinking, hey, can I make a long queen move? And the answer is actually yes. Okay, the answer was yes. My opponent missed it. Instead, what they did is they went and they attacked my queen. And now before you take yet another pawn, you just have to consider, is my queen trapped? And the answer is definitely no. Not only is it no, if they go to attack it, they will lose it to a bishop. Now, my opponent realized that they missed queen takes pawn. So they played it in 1.3 seconds and didn't even realize that my queen on the same line is right there, and that's the end of the game. So that is why you should never rush. You really should never rush. See, when my opponent went rook a1, they went, oh, so what happened there, here's what happened. I took this pawn, right? And my opponent didn't see this move. But when your opponent makes a long move with a certain piece, in this case a queen, you also should look like, do I have a long move with the same piece? And actually, yeah, you do. I mean, queen takes b7 is a very reasonable move. And what I was going to play here actually is I was going to play queen a4 setting a trap. I was going to set a trap for my opponent to attack my queen, and would they see this? People are very bad at long moves up until about 1,000 because they're hard. I mean, the board's a big place. And so my opponent saw this move immediately after they played this and mentally was like, okay, the queen is going to move, and then I'm going to take this pawn. And they forgot that I'm actually going to take, and this is defending. But you have to keep an eye on this, and it actually happens a shocking amount of time. I mean, we are in 800 territory, and at least once a video, somebody blunders a queen. So it's still happening all the time. Now, in the opening, again, I played Scandinavian. We can play all sorts of other openings. This is the creme de la creme. This is on Chessly. So if right now, all right, you want to participate in the holiday event, the December holiday event has been amazing. Just in case any of you, want to check it out. We have skins. We have skins that you can customize. We have avatars on Chessly. We're putting out new courses. We have 70 courses for $49.99, and we're going to have 80 courses soon. Probably by mid-next year, we'll have close to 100. So just super exciting. The Scandinavian in particular is on there, and it's a fan favorite. It's the third most popular course on the entire website. I think my E4 course is number 1. Yeah, I mean, what you do here is you do this, and, as you get stronger in chess, you start thinking about things like which trades are beneficial per side and how they impact the position. And here, I played the best move, but actually this move pawn to f6 is what I wanted to analyze. A very interesting idea. The point of this move is that here you attack the bishop and it has to go. And if it does, you would immediately seize the g file. And our king is in the middle too, but maybe not for long. Like maybe white goes rook e1 and we go here. And actually here we castle this way. And when you have opposite side castling, it becomes a lot easier to attack, right? You have e5, you have all these aggressive ideas to go toward your opponent. So I ultimately just played the simple move, and that was sufficient. Now we are crossing 800 territory. So I'm going to play now the most popular course on Chessly, right? I'm going to play, okay, oh, look at that, 2 Scandinavians in 1. Okay, the best way to play against the Scandinavian is to take, right? And now the best thing to do is to attack the queen. Okay, my opponent, this is not what I recommend in the Scandinavian. We are just going to develop a piece. Wow. Okay, so clearly this person, is playing in a way where they have a system. So this is a person who has invented their own openings. So let's see what happens. They're attacking this pawn. Okay, so let's defend it. They're going to go here, I think, and attack this. Maybe not. Maybe they're going to go knight c6, knight d4, and attack my bishop. I don't know. Okay, pawn c6. Okay, let's keep developing. Let's not break any protocol. So we are getting 3 pieces. Oh, I predicted it. Let's block the bishop. All right, we are responding to threats. Bishop and queen work together here. Let's keep staring how they affect our position. Next move for me is castle. So as long as you, okay, obviously I don't want to have my structure damaged. I actually think this is a losing move because of the move knight to f4. They would take, I would take, they would take, I would take. But okay, let's trade, and let's just castle on the next move. So we have escaped the opening, right? My opponent's crazy queen attack. We stuck to good principles, but we are a little passive. By passive, I just mean we're sort of stuck here behind the enemy territory. We're not on the 4th rank or the 5th. We're sort of back here. So when I look at this position, of course, natural moves come to mind, like attacking the queen and, giving room for the king. This can't be bad, right? It's now another queen move by the opponent, but I should probably try to move bishops and knights. And what you'll notice is that when we haven't crossed the line here, like when we don't have anything here or here or here, we can't make easy progress. The only way in chess to make progress with your pieces is by moving them forward or trading pawns, right? Like a trade like this. So let's go here because this is yet another queen attack and this doesn't look like a bad move. And then let's try to bring our rook, and let's try to bring our bishop and our queen. That's the only way. Is this under attack? No. Can we attack the queen again? Yes, but I don't want to push pawns in front of the king. I do expect my opponent to make another threatening move. This strikes me as a very aggressive player. And remember, I've taught you... with the king in the center, you can't really go to battle. Now, I could go all the way back. Listen to me, I would try to avoid retreating moves if you can. If you can. In this case, you can play knight to h5, and that's actually a trade of knights and helps you make a little more progress. Now that we have made 12 moves, and that's our 13th move, we have to start taking over the game. We have to start thinking in a way that's like, we got to make progress in our position. Every move should be slightly improving. The idea here is that I'm going to get my queen out. The next move, I'm going to get my bishop out. Whoa. So if I take, they're probably going to, I don't know. Now, I could take the knight and then take the pawn, first of all. And in general, this is the more forcing move. You have to start not with the move that was just played. You have to start with, what's the most forcing move? The most forcing move is to take the knight, and it's a check. Now, I could also take the pawn. I'm going to take this. They're going to take with the queen. I'm going to take this pawn, and my opponent might attack my queen again and blunder checkmate. So I might take this pawn. They might go here and straight up blunder a long queen move checkmate. They might also see that because we're a little stronger now. But I predict pawn to h5. Ooh, well spotted. Well spotted. Good move by my opponent, not just making 2 mistakes in a row. Now, let me show you the power of the problem of the king in the center of the board. First of all, I can just develop another piece, but this move is extremely powerful. Because what this move does is immediately attack the queen and threaten naughty stuff in the center of the board. My opponent at this point should probably trade queens. That move actually is not... It's not great. So I'm going to quickly trade queens and show you my idea. Rook, king. Look at this incredible move. Now, it could have actually been a whole lot worse. But look at this move. Using the pin of the rook. This is why we should put rooks in the center. Pawn, pawn, king. I'm going to grab this pawn. And even though this is going to open the B file, my knight gets out. It's very important your knight has an escape. Very important. Okay? You have to make sure that your knight can actually get out, and it's not just going to get trapped. Before you go, pawn grabbing, you have to think, oh, the opponent's going to attack me. Can I get out? I don't know what this does. I mean, I can sort of see in the long run what the idea is, but let's keep trying to eat pawns. I mean, I got my knight out. I'm attacking a free pawn. It can't be a bad move. Another thing you have to do as you get better in chess is start thinking, how can my opponent attack me? How can they make things difficult for me? And I did see that they could have gone knight here and try to fork me. Now, I wouldn't have blundered that, but that is an important thing that you should spot. Instead, my opponent moved the knight here. I don't actually see what the idea is. So now I am up 3 pawns, and I'm threatening to win another one, by the way. Another one, just in case you are wondering. And if my opponent goes here, I will win a 4th pawn. A lot of people make mistakes like that, actually. They forget that a piece could take another piece. So, knight to e6. I think it's time to get my bishop into the game. Oops, kind of. I blundered this pawn. Will my opponent spot that? How well are people seeing how the board is changing? How well are people seeing long moves at this level? They missed it. They missed it. They just didn't want to lose this pawn. So one of the most efficient ways to block a bishop is to build a little pawn wall. Right? So what I'm doing here is I'm building a little pawn wall so the opponent cannot easily get to my my pawn structure. Now I'm going to go knight b8 and see if my opponent will blunder a rook. Maybe, maybe not. Maybe they're going to go, okay, rook d6. That doesn't look like a bad move. So we're going to keep building this. Look at this. We built a triple pawn wall against the bishop. You're learning things here. Triple pawn wall against the enemy bishop. Now my knight here is a little terrible. If they attack it, though, there is a fork. You have to be extremely careful when it comes to attacking knights. When you move a piece to attack a knight, it will zip on out of there. It will zip on out of there. If you actually look in this position, my knight was stuck. It had no move. So if my opponent was a little bit patient, a little bit, maybe they could have brought the king over or they could have done something else, but because I had such an overwhelming pawn majority, what I would have started doing here, the way the computer would try to win this position, is it would try to push these pawns through. It would try to play a move like a4. And then if the king kept walking, it would try to play a move like, even d5. And after rook takes, the knight would escape with a check, and then it would come back, and you can even trade the rooks. And this is winning because of all of this overwhelming space. All of this space on the left side of the board. Now, look, even though we are now 800, people are still playing in a way where they're reinventing the wheel. This was a Scandinavian defense. I really thought we were going to get a pure Scandinavian, and I was going to say, okay, you got to play in the center, you got to go here. Instead, my opponent clearly had a thing they like to do, but as you get stronger in chess, I don't care about I like to do this. You can't play like this. Like, as long as you're just responsible in the opening, no threat, let's keep developing pieces, let's castle, let's stop the threat, right? Let's stop the threat. Okay, we can make a trade, and now we castle. This is 9 moves into the game. We followed good principles. They did not. Okay? They did not. Knight goes to f6. We kick this out. We attack the queen. What have we not done here yet? We haven't activated the rook. The rook to the middle is the most effective thing after a castle because look how strong the rook is compared to the f1 square. And then when my opponent went forward, believe it or not, the best move here is really nasty by the computer. It completely disregards this. It goes knight e4. It's a crazy move, but the idea is the pin on this file, and after pawn takes, we have check with a fork because of the bad king positioning. So when the opponent is leaving a king in the middle like this, there's all sorts of crisscross tactics. Instead, I went here, and this position takes, queen takes. I went knight e4, but you could have done anything. I would have been totally fine if you developed your bishop or whatever, and then you keep attacking over here, everything. Like, the checklist is not done. The way I'm playing these games is I'm like, is there a threat? No. Have I done everything to improve my position? If not, then, I find a way to do that. All right, so we win another one. Let's keep going. I'm gonna play e4 again. Let's see what we get. I'm expecting e5. Okay, we have knight f6. Now, this is called the Alekhines defense. Okay, I won in one move. That's cool. All right, I guess we add it to the collection. All right. I'm okay. Maybe my opponent saw who I was and decided that they didn't want to play me, but the result would have been the same, and at least they would have had an instructive game to look back on. So if you run into me in the slow run, don't resign. You're going to get your rating back. Everybody who I play will get their rating back when this is over. Everybody. So this is called the Alekhines defense. Traditionally, it is not a good idea to put knights in the center against pawns because you just go pawn to e5. You attack the knight, and now it has to keep moving around, and then like this, and then like this, But actually, this is a legitimate defense. It's a legitimate defense because ultimately the knight finds an escape. Ultimately, the pawn moves run out. And if you keep attacking the knight, it will just be very well protected. So black is basically saying, I'm going to do a couple of circus jumps. I'm going to do this. And then I'm going to play the rest of my game. I surrendered a little bit of space to you, and you do have an advantage. But I have quick development. I have easy plans. Alekhines defense, also on Chessly. Actually, Alekhine is a great, great tricky opening for intermediate players. Because, what ultimately happens is players with white overextend very frequently. They get really excited pushing all these pawns, and then they just simply lose. Because what happens is their pawn structure falls apart. So if you're looking for a creative defense with black, we have Alekhine also on Chessly. And for beginners, a lot of beginners here, they play d4 or knight f3, and they just literally lose the pawn. And that actually happens a shocking amount of time. Shocking amount of time. Because, people just space out and they forget. One more thing, if you play the Vienna, which is the most popular course on Chessly, and I think it's my most popular course that I've had any, impact on the chess world for beginner and intermediate players. The Vienna is an incredible opening. Incredible. And actually, it avoids all the stuff here. Although black could play the move d5. And, you know, mostly people do this, and now you can play Vienna Gambit. I was actually hoping to get a Vienna Gambit, but okay, we're not going to be able, you know, we won a game and a move. e4. Let's play e5. Symmetrical. Wow. We are in the 800s, and they are still trying to Scholars Mate us. Really? Man, this is mind-blowing. I'm actually kind of shocked. Folks, is this really what you have to deal with? Wow. Okay, well, this is the way you never get Scholars Mated. You never, and if they go g4, then you just smack them in the middle. Ooh. Wow, this is actually a player who knows a little bit more of the tricks. Now, we're going to go like this in Castle. Okay. All right. They're going to keep attacking? So, look, you can't play chess like this. That ultimately is the reality. And I'm going to show you what to do against somebody that plays like this and, you know, still tries to checkmate you, okay? So when they play like this and they leave all their pieces out, you have certain resources at your disposal, right? We stop the mate, you know, we attack the queen, we develop, this is called a fianchetto, we put the bishop here and we castled, right? We built a little house for our king. Now, this does not need to be acknowledged. Even if the opponent plays pawn to g5, your position is so resilient, you can just move out of the way and it's all good. Actually, we are at the point where we need to start punishing this setup, right? So first, I would like to go take care of this bishop. The knight jump to the edge of the board when the bishop can't run away is extremely useful because without this bishop, you are going to have a wonderful game. Now, I want to strike in the center. The way you beat the queen and bishop, all this garbage, is you get the bishop and you strike the center. Once you strike the center, the board opens and white's poor piece positioning will lead to a terrible game. Not just the move d5 didn't just set up a trade in the center. It actually set up this. It set up me taking that pawn, which was supposed to be an offensive weapon, before I take back in the middle. So now I'm gonna be up a pawn, and it's actually potentially gonna be a whole lot worse than that. I'm attacking a rook, and then I'm gonna take this and this. So within about 15-20 moves, my opponent will be in a completely lost position. And it doesn't even have anything to do with me. Like, okay, I'm so high rated and I have a lot of experience. You can play exactly like this. My opponent actually stopped one of the key counter ideas, which I will get into in a moment here in the Scholars Mate, but now they have nothing. They stopped one of the key counter ideas, and all I did was play in the center and got rid of their bishop. So I got rid of their bishop, and I played in the center. This was the more advanced version of the Scholars Mate concept. But after 12 moves, they are down a pawn. They're about to lose another pawn. Their king can't castle, and I have the bishop pair. So this position's already about -5, probably. Because even though I'm only up 1 point, it's soon going to be 2. Positionally, white is completely lost. Like, white doesn't have anything. I'm going to jump my knight here. I'm going to put my knight on f4. My rooks are coming to the middle. Okay, I mean, I can just shred open the position. Because, again, king is in the middle. Look how many players leave their kings out, too. Right? If you follow these protocols, your rating is going to skyrocket. This is free. This is free. The king is open. Pick your choice. I mean, I'll take in the middle. Now, there is this. Now, okay, this is an important one. King in the middle. We don't even have to move our queen, because when the king is so open, every center pawn has been moved, and 3 of them have disappeared. EF, EDC. We don't have to move our queen. My opponent will probably spot this. This is a totally losing move. Totally, because you cannot... Okay, you cannot leave your king in the middle like this. Now, this is an interesting one. This position is lost for a multitude of reasons, but if you start trading the queen in such a position, a massive percentage of your advantage will disappear. Black is up 2 pawns. Trading the queen is totally reasonable. But if you trade the queen, you relieve so much pressure on the white position. Actually, we can already play rook e2. Rook takes knight here, totally winning, because we would bring the rook as backup. I don't want to do that. Instead, what I want to do is I want to just kind of like inch closer so that the pressure is on the knight. This is actually not a great move because I get in the way of my bishop and I get in the way of some of my other pieces. There was a cleaner way, probably, to do all of this. But next, I would like to bring my knight, and I would like to bring my bishop. Maybe I'd like to bring my rook. There's a hidden idea to all of this, and it's actually that white can castle, I think. So let's go knight d5. With this move, we activated the knight, and we also activated the bishop. So these are the ideas here. Showing you how to use your material advantage to overwhelm your opponent and get a winning position. Could we have traded queen? Sure. Could I have actually put a lot more pressure? Yes. The way you can always sense if there's a tactic, if you have 5 attacking pieces and they have 2 defenders, very often, really it's 6. It's 6 attacking pieces because you're extremely close to having another one join. Now, I'm looking at this. I have knight before knight c2. I mean, that looks really nasty. Knight before knight c2 looks, you know, this is why your knight forks have to be sharp. My queen is looking at the knight, the bishop, the knight, and the pawn. And this is just, if my knight replaced my queen, it would be a fork. If my knight went there, it's going to be a fork. My opponent might long castle and just get mated in a move. I mean, really, if my opponent goes this way, I take the bishop. The position was just falling apart at the seams there. This is 19 moves. I said within 20 the game would be over because of the poor opening choices and decision making. I'm going to take this. 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 I'm going to get my knight in. I'm going to get my knight in. Attack the queen. Like, I really want, after this, I want you to never, ever lose to early queen attacks ever again. Ever. Okay? I want you to never, ever, ever lose to early queen attacks. All right? Queen takes pawn. If rook attacks, we take it. Predicting opponent's mistakes, all part of the game. If the knight goes to b5 or d5 to try to get at me, they stop defending this. Okay, I see a fork. I see a free knight. I see a pawn. Everything can be taken. What is the best move? I mean, probably taking this is the best move. It's a free piece. Now, our rooks see each other, don't forget, but we have protection there. So queen takes. They might go here. We're going to take back. Our queen sees the pawn. It sees the pawn. It sees this. What does their queen see? It does see a7. It's important to see long moves as well for the opponent. That move, total blind spot there. Just totally forgot about our rook. We take this as well. Now, my opponent ends up resigning the game. Now, we are almost 50-0. It will be good to end this video on being 50-0, so we're probably going to play one more game. I mean, if these games keep going like this, look, people are still doing this. However, at 8-900, they are doing it in a more sophisticated way. If you want to stop losing to early queen attacks, I have a video called, punishing early queen attacks. And the way you punish them is after this position, you jump in with your knight and just start slapping them around. This takes this. This takes this. This attacks the queen and threatens this. Another good follow-up in this position is you play c6 and d5. So you immediately counter the bishop with your pawns. But frankly, as long as you play in the middle, that's all I care about. Because what ultimately happens when you play in the center is all your pieces get more active. All your pieces are moving through the middle of the board. Now, a lot of people here, they play like g4, g5. You go here, they go something like this, free pawn, right? Like you already have easy ways to counter. What my opponent did is my opponent stopped the move knight d4 completely. Okay, we just developed. They went here, we castled. Now, if white just played normal chess, you still want to implement this game plan. You want to go after this bishop. Now, if they didn't play that, if they played a4, a4 is an interesting move because the idea of a4 is still, if knight a5, the bishop comes back to a2. So that doesn't quite work, right? The idea of knight a5 is to get the bishop, for sure, wherever it ends up. If they play a4, the computer still wants you to go d5. You know why it wants you to go d5? Because after pawn takes, you actually have e4, which is completely crushing. e4 is just a crushing move. Because what happens is, it opens up this. They have to move the queen. After you trade, guess what? You can take this pawn. They cannot take because the king is in the center. If they try to stop that, very quickly, you win the second pawn. So you easily clear the pawns out of the center of the board. If you can even go here, You finish developing, you know, they run away, and now you are punishing. I mean, you are knight in, hitting this, hitting this. So that is the way the game would progress if my opponent had played it the right way. But look, I got the bishop, I struck the center, the game was over. We're already minus 1.6. A couple moves later, I said it's minus 5. It's literally minus 5. That is why you watch the slow run. All right? I can't believe we're still getting 4-move mated. I mean, really, I'm a little disgusted. A6! Wow. Okay. 2 pawns in the center. Develop the knight. I don't know what this is. Okay. We can push, we can take. Technically, my friends, this is a Scandinavian defense. Technically, my opponent just played a Scandinavian, but also put these pawns out. So, of course, we're going to take this. So now we're playing a Scandinavian defense, except these 2 moves have been played. So that doesn't make sense. Okay. And I'm going to castle. So I've just developed 2 knights, a bishop, and I'm going to castle my king. This is the plan. I do expect to be pinned, yes. We can attack this bishop if you like, and we actually might end up... We might get this and... Oh my goodness, we are scholars. It's scholars. My opponent walked into a scholar's mate attack. Goodness gracious me. Oh my goodness. I cannot believe this is happening. Look at this. We're just totally crushing now. And this is a threat. And this. And this. Oh my goodness. Queen, bishop takes knight. I'm going to punish everybody who uses the early queen stuff. Everybody. I mean, this shows you that you can breeze through 800 rapid. You can get to 900 and 1000 rapid, and that is when things are going to get a little more serious. King is under attack. We can move the king, but hey, if we can just block and develop a bishop and get closer to castling, that obviously is the way to go. Next move, long castle. I predict long castle check, king c7, queen d8 mate. That's what I think. But obviously my opponent can make a move first. Well, we have long castle, king c7, and queen d8 mate. Okay, now the king could maybe run away. If we move the bishop with a check, we also win the rook. So that is very nice. But long castle check. If the king goes here, it's on the same diagonal as the queen. We got to hit him with one of these. Defended. Good piece coordination. They gotta stop doing this. People have to stop bringing out their queen so early. Our bishop is hanging. We can bring it back. It's not the best move. My opponent might go knight here and just straight up hang another piece. And that is why it's important to be able to get into the minds of your opponent. We have mate in a couple ways. I will go the fancy route. I'm going to play knight to a4 when they take it. This is mate. Completely unnecessary. Obviously, you know, you can go queen c7. You can go, you know, and then... But folks, I mean, I'm literally just playing principles. If I can put 2 pawns in the center, I will. They go here. Let's take it. Get the knight out. They go here. Get the bishop out. They pin us. Okay, I could have castled. I decided let's see what happens. We know that getting the bishop for the knight is good. Now my queen sees this and this. My opponent accidentally blunders into a fork because you just can't play like this. You just can't play with such a lack of development. That's 50 wins, and literally the last 10 of them, if you go back through episode 12, 11, so many of these games are decided by these blunders just caused by poor principle play. I'm going to play one more game. Why not? Birthday present, 40 minutes. There's nothing I'm even doing that's like shocking. I'm not doing anything unique. If I'm going to get another queen, I'm going to freak out. Like, it's insane that at 800, this is like the most popular opening. This is mind-blowing. I would have expected this at 500. Okay, this is very interesting. So here my opponent plays the King's Gambit. The King's Gambit. Now, this is an opening that already demands very accurate play. But if this is the first time you're seeing this opening, you might go, okay, I don't get it. That's just a free pawn, right? Now you're thinking, all right. So I have to get my knights out, right? Let me go here. But you blunder. You blunder that the pawn is going to attack your knight. I've taught you that, you know, you really should avoid the enemy pawns attacking your knight in the middle of the board, right? You just got to be really careful. Let's say worst case scenario, you don't play the right way. This can happen. We're going to keep it moving. We're going to get our knight out, right? We're going to see how the board is adapting. Board is changing a little bit. Okay, opponent plays the bishop out. Is this just a free piece? Is that just free? Now, what do you know about pieces in the center? Well, we know that, you know, with the king here, I mean, to be honest, this just looks like a free pawn. So we took a second free pawn. Now, the scariest thing would be if white castles, because our king is still in the middle. That would be scary. We would then need to castle quickly, because otherwise we're going to get smashed. If the queen pins us immediately, we have a little time. We defend our knight with one of the pawns, or even with the queen. I like defending it with the pawn because it's straightforward, it's the least valuable piece, and it even attacks a bishop. So at least we're countering, right? If we develop the queen, we lose a little time. I'm always like a fan, and as you get stronger, you realize how much the center is like important. How much, if you open the center, the bishops and the knights, they work together really, really well. Now, we just took 2 pawns, right? That's a little more feeble of a move, pawn to d3. When I say feeble, I don't mean like terrible. I just mean, well, you know, now we can just go back. You know, we can also go here and target the bishop. Let's say we don't see anything wrong with the move knight to f6, so we just come back. Now here my opponent can already start sort of livering us. Okay, here's an interesting position. There's this incoming, right? If you give a check now, that looks like an easy move. You say check and I castle. It's not a good move. It's not a good move because they can attack our bishop. You would lose time. So maybe just here and castle is perfectly reasonable. Another useful move, as always, is pawn to d5 because it attacks the bishop. It activates our light squared bishop. And then when they attack our king, we would block. But let's look, like, let's just, even in dangerous times, in a moment where things don't look so good for us because our king is a bit exposed and we're clearly losing time, even though we took 2 pawns, I'm just like, let's castle. Let's try to make sure that we're castling our king, and then and only then will we get the rest of the pieces out. Is there a threat here? To be honest, no. I can even already start playing d5. Oh! Oh! Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Okay. This was unexpected. Oh, this is a big sign of adversity now. Now I'm annoyed. Okay, we have mouse slipped. Oh boy, the birthday present. Time to start emotionally recovering, all right? Because this is bad. This is bad. It's very bad. So knight e5 comes in, it attacks f7. Now, this is unprotectable. There's no way to guard the pawn itself because it's queen here is terrible. But we do have the move pawn to d5. As you've seen throughout the video, this move is black. The 2 pawns in the center are extremely important. Extremely important. This pawn not only blocks the attack, it actually straight up creates a threat, so the opponent has to move the bishop, right? Now, what do I do from here? Some of you watching a bit more advanced would notice the move bishop takes pawn. Now, when I see a strong knight, I see the opponent has a lot of presence near my territory, I kind of want to trade the active pieces. I kind of want to get rid of this knight. Should I get rid of the knight like this or like this? You could argue that if you go here and they take, you have damaged pawn structure. You can argue if you go here, you block the bishop. I don't know. Let's just trade some pieces because I don't like being under attack. I want to get rid of this knight. And so I am offering a trade of knights. Notice I'm taking a deep breath. This was a great move. I'm not panicking. Okay, let's trade. The less pieces my opponent has to attack me with, the better it's going to be. They're going to take with a bishop. They have pressure on me potentially over here. Now, in the long run, we will figure out a solution here because I was supposed to have my rook in the game. I don't have my rook in the game. Now, I wanted to offer another trade. So let's trade another piece. Okay, they took my knight. Now I take this. Now I'm expecting this move in 2 seconds. An immediate blunder, but maybe not. Maybe they actually... Ooh, okay. That's not a blunder. So, folks, in general, you really should avoid trading a bishop for a knight. You just should, because what you are left with is me having the dark squared bishop. And it's an extremely powerful piece. In this position, even though you are creating a threat on my queen, my bishop stares directly at your king. Like queen e5, and I'm literally threatening a checkmating attack. It's really, really dangerous. In fact, I'm going to play this move. The opponent is attacking me with pressure. There's bishop staring at my pawn, rook staring at my pawn. But you have just made it a lot easier for me to have a battery directly pointed at your king. This is extremely dangerous for white. I haven't developed my light squared bishop yet, which I will. And guess where I'm going to develop it to? The glue. I'm going to glue together my pawns and bishop to protect my king, block the center as well. Experienced players, you might be looking and thinking, hey, what about queen takes b2? Experienced players, you're actually right. That's probably the best move. I'm going to do it. A very advanced move here would be queen f3, avoiding the rook completely and threatening checkmate. Okay, my opponent didn't play that, but they played a nice move protecting their rook, and now I go here. My queen, safe, good way back, also can sneak out over here. I expect rook b1, just kind of a very, very normal move for people to play here. Just get the queen out. But you'll notice, like, my king is not in a great position, but is defended. Life is good. I have 2 extra pawns. And if I can trade the queens and some pieces, I will be winning. What's funny is I'm actually very, very close to also having a devastating attack against my opponent. I predicted this move ages ago. Many of you, would play queen d4 check. I'm going to play this move, but it's not a great move because in many ways you will help your opponent's king. But okay, that's normal. And now we have to think, right? The reason also this is a bad move, very high level, it walks into a move that helps the opponent. The opponent wanted to move the knight and, activate more of their pieces. Now, hidden in all of this is an expert level maneuver. I'm going to show it to you now. The maneuver is a same side, king side attack, started with the move, pawn to h5. With a rook and a king standing on opposite sides of the board, if this pawn didn't exist, this would be game over. I would have a devastating attack. So suddenly, even though I mouse-slipped my king earlier in the game, the benefit of having kept my rook on the same line is exactly this. I can now play h5. Now, my opponent plays a fantastic move. And this can get very dangerous very fast. If I move my queen to the wrong square, the opponent will jump forward. Many people here would mess this up. They would play some random move, and then, the opponent would respond with a good move, and suddenly, there is very strong counterplay. You can bring the queen back, but a lot of people would be scared about something here. You can bring the queen here. You can bring the queen here. You should not bring the queen there or there. There is no business for the queen there. It's not participating in the attack. The rook is also there. As long as you're safely not blundering your queen at all, like this move, I don't really care where you move, but you have to make sure you spot the next way that they could attack you, which is rook to e1. And if you have a defense to rook to e1, which in this case would be retreating, I'm okay with that. But be careful with moves like this. I would have preferred, getting out a different way. I also do stop the move knight to g5. The bishop and my bishop are both kind of, grappling for this. I would love to put my bishop on that diagonal. That would be really good. Okay, well, we have discussed this at length. Like, I'm fine with a queen trade, actually. I'm kind of okay with it because I'm up 2 pawns. And so now we begin, the next phase of this game. I see this, right? I think a reasonable move would be bringing my rook to the middle to defend my position. Also, I do have a move bishop h3, which attacks the rook, but I would avoid making such extremely long committal moves with pieces that don't have any other follow-up. So let's mirror our opponent. Now, I predict white plays knight g5. Knight g5 is a very good move. Knight g5 is a very, very good move. It's the best move, I think. Just opening up the rook, putting a lot of pressure, then I would be pinned. My position would be under a lot of pressure. And then I would have to really accurately defend myself. Another very important... Hey, remember how I told you that pawns work in clusters to stop a bishop? This is why I love these Slowrun episodes, because you learn two things in the same video. Look, I can make a cluster of pawns on the same color, just like I did against the dark bishop in a game a few games ago. This cluster of pawns would totally block this bishop out. When you can block a bishop with pawns, a pawn wall, it is extremely effective. It's worse to block a bishop with a bishop. Then you're using a lot of resources, you know? Okay, well, there you go. Cluster. I made a cluster. Cluster against the bishop, negating the powers of a bishop. And now my light squared bishop is much more free to move. This is a very high-level concept. Pawn to c6 in that position, we will analyze after the game. There's a really legitimate chance this is the best computer move as well. And the way you make stuff like this, you can make moves like pawn to c6 past like 1600. Just a slow move, improves your position, quick move. It's a slow move for the position, but a quick move on the clock. Because we both have 4 minutes. We're going to run out of time playing slowly. So we go here, and my opponent really should play knight g5. And if they're not playing knight g5, I don't really know what to do. You know, but they should go knight g5. And they're not doing it. So they're thinking. And if they go here now, because I defended my center, well, I can't quite move my bishop, because the knight and the rook together would be attacking me, but I could move my bishop generally speaking, because my pawn here is well protected. An idea for my opponent here would be to play pawn to c4 to try to break apart my center. There you go. There you go, Mr. Gotham Chess. So I can take or I can ignore. What do I do? Time is of the essence. Let's try to play straightforward chess. I don't see anything wrong with this trade. Okay? I am up 2 pawns. I have 6 after they take back, and they will have 4. Okay. This is not a great move, but it's a move. It moves the bishop, it attacks the rook. And the less time on the clock that the opponent has, the better. Now, I do have 1 check in this position, and it's bishop to h3. And if the opponent moves to a square that is not protected, this is why you have to trust in me for your chess, because I understand how people's minds work. Always look for checks. And out of nowhere comes a tactic. And now we take the rook. No mouse slip this time. Still, this is the best move, by the way. You have to go for something now. Also, knight d4, yeah. And this is a little tricky. What's funny is, like, look, this move pawn to f6 is a fake threat on the knight, but the opponent might see it and go here and blunder the knight completely. The reason this is a fake threat is because I'm actually pinned. I'm not threatening to take the knight. The best move here for white would be pawn to c5, sacrificing a pawn and activating the bishop. If they find pawn to c5, I will be extremely impressed. They did not, which I expected. Now, will my opponent spot the concept of continuity here? So I'm quizzing my opponent a little bit. I play g5 threatening g4. Will they spot that they can take? Because the knight was just there. Many people oh, very well spotted. Look at this. And my pinned pawn is not protecting my knight. Uh-oh. Okay, well now I gotta get a move on. So let's go king g7. Maybe they go here and hang this. But my opponent's actually very good. This is the best player I've played, I think, so far. Okay. We haven't moved this rook yet. Let's move this rook. Let's go join the rooks on the 2nd rank. This is how we win in the endgame. All right. My opponent playing very, very well. This is the best 800 we have faced so far. And it's not even clear how to win this position. So I will tell you, trading the rooks will help a huge amount, because that is white's most powerful remaining piece. The knight and the bishop are very good, but they are not as powerful as the rook. With the rook, we will be able to promote. We have a 2-on-3. In the long run, that becomes a 2-on-1 and a 1-on-0. We should promote that. Now, my opponent's very low on time, so I expect them to probably lose on time, frankly. In an otherwise losing position, but still a very, very good fight. Okay, I go rook to d2. I am clearly being very, very nasty here. The rook's on the second rank, showing you the power in the endgame. Probably the best move is retreating, defending the pawn and attacking my rook. Yeah, white is deep in thought here. It's a big position. They can check my king. That's not scary. We just move. Or move, or move, or move, or move, or move. This would be not possible. But this is there. Okay, and I guess this was also a mouse slip. Maybe they went to play rook there. Because the game ends by checkmate. The game ends by checkmate. And that was probably the best. Wow. I mean, that was probably the best game of the entire slow run. And that's why I like to extend these episodes, because for every person that resigns in a move or hangs their queen or does something ridiculous, this player was really good. This was a very, very good player. I hope I explained everything clearly. I don't want to then have another 20-minute analysis. You'll notice that I played a person that played the King's Gambit for the first time. And the King's Gambit is an opening where you sacrifice the pawn, you go for the center, you do this, and I went knight to f6. And my opponent really should have pushed and attacked me. Because after this, they would continue to attack me like this, and they would get a big center, and then they would play bishop takes pawn, and that is how you should play when you play a gambit. My opponent played it a little bit more feeble with bishop here, and I took, and then the plan was defend my knight, block my king and castle. Even after this mouse slip, I think the position is kind of balanced. If anything, black is still better, but of course, had I just castled and something like this happened, I would have won quite comfortably, because what would have happened is I would have developed my bishop, I would have developed my other knight, I would have developed my rook, and then all my pieces together would have just overwhelmed. Instead, I had to fight back from a worse position, but I hope I was instructive in how I did it. If you made it this far in the video, allow me to remind you all of my thanks from the beginning of the video for being a part of my life, parasocially, for the last several years. Cheers to a 4th decade. And yeah, if you would like to spend some money on your hobby, improve your chess, gain some elo, and have a lot of fun, which is a key component of Chessly, check it out, because the sale ends tomorrow. That's all I have for you today. Get out of here.